Welcome to Pomodoro Joe for Sunday, September 24th, 2023. Today we're looking at LeetCode problem 799, Champagne Tower. This is a medium problem. And I'm not going to read this whole thing, but basically we're given a tower of champagne glasses. Now we have a certain amount of champagne that we pour into these glasses, represented by poured. That amount of champagne pours into the top glass. Any overflow will then pour into the glass on either side equally. So half the extra flow that comes in this top glass will go to the left, and the other half will go to the right. Now at some point, we'll get down to a row that doesn't have enough champagne to fill the entire row. So we are given a query row and a query glass, and we need to return how much champagne is in that glass at that row. So let's see, we've got some constraints down here. Our poured can be quite high, 10 to the 9th, and our query glasses, we can have up to 100 rows. So that's kind of key to this one. Because we can have 100 rows, we might just want to calculate all of the glasses ahead of time, and then we can just return the value at this particular row and glass. All right, let's put 25 minutes on the Pomodoro timer and we'll get started. I don't have a ton of time today, so we'll see how far we get with this. All right, so I would like to create a result matrix. This is basically going to be the entire tower in one matrix. So let's see, result. Actually, matrix is probably not the best term because it's not going to be an equally, the number of rows and columns aren't going to match. So let's see, what will I do? I'll call this the result. I'll just call it the result. Result tower, how about that? All right, so let's pre-compute or pre-fill our result tower with a bunch of zeros. So we'll have 0 for the very first row, and then we'll have 2 zeros for the second row, 3 zeros for the third row, etc. So the number of elements in this row is equal to the row. So row 1 has 1 element, row 2 has 2 glasses, row 3 has 3 glasses, so on and so forth. That's going to be 4 row in range. And let's see, we are using 0 indexed values here, but our very first row has 1 champagne glass, so we don't want to start this at 0. So we'll have to say 1, and we have to go to 101 normally, but since we are going to be offset by 1, we actually have to go to 102. Remember, this row or this range is not inclusive, so we have to go to 102. All right, now let's see, the first champagne glass. I guess one thing to note here is we're going to be recording the amount of champagne that actually flows through this champagne glass. Not the amount of champagne that's left, but the amount of champagne that actually flows through. So this very top glass will have all of the poured champagne flow through it, except for the glass itself. It's going to have one glass of champagne, basically itself, that doesn't pour through, it just stays in the glass. So this glass's flow will be poured minus 1. Now these two glasses, this glass will have poured divided by 2, or actually say poured minus 1, the amount that's from this glass, divided by 2. So half will flow into this glass. And this glass will have the same, poured minus 1, that's the amount of flow through the top glass, and then divide that by 2. All right, so for our very top glass, this result tower, at our top glass, that's 0, 0, well, we have the entire poured amount flowing through it. Now, one thing to note here, so this 0, 0 actually represents sort of an invisible glass that's above the entire tower. So, for example, our very first glass will actually have poured minus 1. So you can imagine there's, I don't know, a sensor that's above this glass that just detects, well, how much has poured all the way through? And that's going to be the entire poured amount. That's this 0, 0. All right, now we have to go through all of our rows. So for every row in our actual tower, so that's going to be in range, and we'll go from 0 to, actually we only need to go to query row, but we could, yeah, I guess we only need to go to query row. So we've allocated space for the entire tower, but we really only need to go up to our query row. And since this is a range that's non-inclusive, we do have to add 1. So query row plus 1. All right, so for every row in our tower up to our query row, now let's go through every glass in that row. For every glass in this row, and again, this is going to be range. So how many glasses are in a row? Well, the row value is the number of glasses. So this is going to be row plus 1. So that's how many glasses we have. Okay, now we'll be looking at the next row. So we'll fill these glasses and we'll start filling up the next glasses. So what's the flow through these glasses? So the flow through this glass will be the flow at this result for this glass. So the result tower for this row and this glass. So the amount of flow will be that minus 1 because it's going to retain 1 glass's worth of champagne. Let's see, not 1.9, minus 1. And that whole thing divided by 2. So that's the flow through this glass that goes to the left side. And it's the same flow that goes to the right side. So the amount of flow through this glass will be the amount of champagne that flows to this glass minus 1, because it's going to retain 1 glass worth of champagne. And then half of it will flow to the left and half will flow to the right. So this flow is maybe the half flow. Maybe I should call it half flow. Okay, so now half of this will go to the left and half will go to the right. So we kind of want to do something like this. Our result tower for the next row, row plus 1. So that's going to be the row down below this row. Well, we have to go to the cup to the left or the glass to the left. That's going to be glass. And we actually have to go to the glass to the right. So we have row plus 1 and that glass. But it'll be glass plus 1. So for example, this is index 0. So it's going to flow to index 0 and index 1. So again, that's 0 goes to 0 and 1. This one will be index 1. It's going to flow to index 1 and index 2. All right, so that makes sense. Let's see, we have to make sure if our half flow is greater than 0. So as long as we have some flow, then we'll go to these glasses. We'll flow to these glasses. If we don't have any flow, there's no point in filling up these glasses, or you can't fill up these glasses. Okay, now finally, so we're going to be pouring our champagne. Half of it's going to flow left, half of it's going to flow right. Now we fill up our entire tower. Now at the end, we need to return our result. And so we'll return our result for the tower in question, or the glass in question. So that's the result tower for this query row and for this query glass. But that's only if, so again, we're returning the flow. This we're calculating is the flow, not the amount of champagne left. So this could actually be greater than 1. The flow could be greater than 1. So at this point, we need to check if this is greater than 1. So if this is greater than 1, then we return 1. We'll have a full glass. So we'll return this if this is less than 1. Otherwise, we just return 1. So if this is greater than 1, actually I should say less than or equal to, I guess it doesn't really matter, it should be the same. So if our flow happens to be less than 1, that means we don't have anything flow out of this glass. That means the glass is only full up to this amount, up to the amount that flowed in. If it happens to be greater than 1, then the amount in this glass is just going to be 1 full glass. It can't be greater than 1. All right, so I think this should do it. Let's try it. Half flow, not half flow. Half flow. And I'm missing something. What am I missing? Let's see. We return 0. We return 1. Looks like we're only returning zeros. All right, so what am I missing here? Oh, I'm not assigning anything. Duh. This is equal to the half flow. This makes a lot more sense. All right, if we have some flow that's going out of our glass, then we'll fill the left and right glasses with that half flow. Okay, one more try. Still missing something. What am I missing? Holy smokes, I knew I shouldn't have tried this one. Oh, it's because we're increasing. That's right. We're not just assigning, we're increasing the amount in this glass because this glass can have overflow from more than one parent glass, as you can see here. This one glass flows into two, and this one glass has two glasses flowing into it. Okay. Oh man. What a mess. Okay, that seems to work. Let's see if we can pass. All right, and we do pass, and we actually do okay. 71% for runtime, 48% for memory. Not too bad. All right, I don't have a ton of time today. It's getting late, so that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. I hope you can go out and write better code.